Hey everybody, welcome to another installment of Masters of Craft.
In the beginning, it was just survival, actually, because like we wanted to be artists. However, it's really hard to do, no matter who you are. In the beginning, we were just doing whatever we could to, keep our dream going. Back then, like, you didn't even have like all the computer gear and cheap ways to record. Like, we actually had to like book studios and all that kind of stuff. So if we could like, sync a record here or write, a song or a jingle for somebody over there, or put a concert together because no one else would put us up, like we would do that. So it's just like whatever we could do to keep rolling. And like when you're writing a record, like that whole thing is like, it's a different thing, right? Because you really have to put your ego aside, especially when you're writing with other people. And it's about the best idea. It's not about, like everybody getting their say. If you make a song where everybody's doing everything, the shit comes out mad disjointed every time. It's really about collaborating in the purest sense of the word. They always say, right, like if you're the smartest person in the room, like, fucked up. You gotta find some new friends.
We're rolling.
Rolling. Oh, you see me rolling. They hating. Trying to catch me riding dirty, catch me riding dirty. By the way, Chameleonaire was my first celebrity-esque interview.
Yo, Chameleonaire is a G, and he's like so smart. He's like all up in the tech communities.
Brilliant.
And yeah, like I bet you that he's got like quiet, like long money.
Oh no, he was one of the first investors in Maker Studios, and then
wow, was he?
At the time when I interviewed him, he had just become entrepreneur in residence at Upfront Ventures, which is the largest venture fund in Southern California.
Damn.
Let's start the show.
Yeah,
you have a you don't want me to
just
start the
be
show?
aware that it is a short mic, so you'll want to.
Oh, okay. So
Here,
the
keep
talk
that
more
mic.
into
Put
it.
your
Okay.
mustache on it. Put your.
You want to go closer?
It doesn't matter. Whatever works for you guys.
Adjust it however you feel comfortable.
Okay, cool.
Why are you getting up? Why are you getting up?
I was just helping him out.
By the way,
Being a
I
helpful
want all this
person.
pre-stuff in the final audio.
Okay.
Cool. With the Chameleonaire.
With Chameleon, yeah.
How you gonna
especially
clear that though?
I'll just, I'll text him and then be
cool.
like,
Sounds
hey,
good.
sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know who owns it. You can help me out with that. You can help me with clearance.
You don't really need the pub on that. Yeah, you good. Cover song.
Can I start?
Yeah,
You
you
mind?
can. Yeah, sure.
Can I?
If you want,
If you
want.
would you
Ross
like
Perot.
to?
Can I finish? Can I finish?
Yes, you can.
Welcome to my YouPorn channel. All right. This camera. Hey everybody, welcome to another installment of Masters of Craft. I'm Chris Denson.
Hi, I'm Caleb.
Yep. And in case you guys are tuning in for the first time ever, this show is just a collection of my favorite things. Caleb is one of my favorite things. I want you guys to be inspired by things that inspire me. Minds, things that people create, companies, entrepreneurs, and just general all-around brilliance. Hello.
What am I doing here then?
Oh, hey. The first thing I wrote down on my notes, which is really stupid. It says, that is a gorgeous mustache. You're like a Korean Tom Selleck.
Oh, I wish I could be like Tom Selleck. Mostly people will say I'm the Tapatio guy if it's LA.
Oh.
And in Korea they think they call me the Pringles man. Yeah, so I get that. But if they're
That's
really
my favorite one.
Yeah, or Salvador Dali if they're feeling real creative
Oh.
and shit. Yeah, I even tried to do the little infinity stash thing and like, man, it didn't work out.
We were talking about like super villains that have that. Is there a character that's like
Sonic
known?
the Hedgehog. Jim Carrey got the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, he did have it in
his
the.
shit is
Yeah, that's
fire.
right.
Yeah,
Robotnik.
his was great. It was better than yours. And yours is probably
100%.
the best one I've
100%.
ever seen in real life.
I want like all the but it stops growing after.
Caleb, what are you doing with your face?
This is it. This is all. This is all I've got.
Caterpillar style.
This is all I could do. Well, and it's funny because like I feel like making the shift to a mustache is such a bold decision. Like the first time it was on my face, I was like, "Whoa, you look so different." So to make the decision to do that is like you got some audacity.
But it's been there for a while.
It has been.
Or not that I want to make this all about your mustache, but
I mean, you could.
we could.
60-minute
I've done a lot
podcast.
about the mustache. Before that, I had a mohawk.
What does it look like
for,
when you
a
go
few years.
swimming?
When I go,
do,
it looks
yeah.
like your armpit. It's crazy. It's like this.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
I thought it did like
never
that,
go
didn't
swimming
it,
with
like-
James Brown.
Yeah, I go swim with my daughter every weekend, man. She's scared. I come out the water, she's like, ah!
I feel like I've seen a picture of you after you got out of the water and it was like it did one of these.
Oh yeah,
Fall-
it'll
falls down?
do that too. I gotta comb this out the way before I brush my teeth, bro, because it gets all up in your mouth. It's like,
Oh man,
yeah, it's commitment, bro.
it really
It
is.
is. It sounds like a lot more work than it's worth.
Yeah.
So
like it, though, so
the
that's why
you're
second
stuck with
the
it now.
second thing I wrote in my notes, you guys, class, as it says, I don't know where to start with you. So I'm going to start with an IG post.
Okay.
And I'm going to read something you wrote.
Oh, no. I don't really think about those when I write them.
Me. Goodbye, 1046. As my parents leave for Korea today, it definitely feels like the end of the era. I reflect on everything they accomplished together in this house for 35 years, and it makes me humbled and inspired. I'm also thankful they're going back home on their own accord where they can better be supported for this next part of their journey. I love you and respect you so much. Safe travels and see you soon. Smiley, :
Damn, you pick one of those? I thought you were going to pick like a funny one or something.
Nah, man. This is not that was hilarious. No.
It is kind of funny.
It is hilarious.
Yeah.
No,
it's about my mom being sick, but yeah.
Oh, really?
Real funny.
I didn't know that. Yeah. That's, my dad was sick. Where'd I go with this? What did that 35-year history mean for who James Rowe is today?
What did that? Damn, that's a hell of a question. Well, like everything, actually. Those are my formative years, right? Like, because I'm 36 right now. I'm just kidding.
Oh, wow. Really?
So, yeah, my parents are actually both musicians. And then they grew out all their different, like, community ventures and businesses out of that house. So they had, like, a children's choir out there. They produced operas out of there. Yeah, so, like, that's where I learned how to, like, like, stage shows and all that kind of stuff, is my dad had me being, like, a stage producer at 9 years old. Wow. Like, literally slave labor when I was a kid. Yeah, but, so, I mean, like, and like, all kids from Koreatown over 20 years, like, hundreds and hundreds of kids came over there to learn piano, to be part of that choir, singing lessons, after-school programs, all that kind of stuff. So, like, when it comes to Koreatown, and, like, I know generations of people, and all that comes from that house.
It's I'm gonna fast forward to some thoughts I was gonna say for later, because there's this sense of community in everything you do. Like, we were joking earlier about your Instagram handle has like 10 different things you can click on just in the bio alone, but they're all so community centered. And now I get it, like, in a way that I didn't. Like, what did community mean to you then, and what does it mean to you now?
I mean, my dad was like one of the. He was a prominent member in the Korean church, and in the Korean community, like, especially the Korean American community in Los Angeles, like, Christianity is a really strong thing. So I lived in the church, and, like, we got our support from the church. Like, my dad and my whole family, we were immigrants, and he came out with the dream, but, like, absolutely, to be a musician in America, like, barely speaking the language, and the only way that he was able to survive was through the community and through the support that they gave them. And, like, for my own career in the beginning of making music, like, the only shots that we got in the beginning was only the community. Like, our first real big look was with Fast and Furious 3. And then that was the first time that Justin Lin actually got a big break to go and direct a movie. And yeah, so the first version that he made was, like, I think, like 3.5 hours. Can you imagine that? 3.5 hours.
Of Fast and Furious?
Yeah. I mean, they got 11 of them now.
Right. It's 120 hours. What do you want, John? Caleb, scoot over. Continue. There we go. Thank you, John.
Yeah. So obviously Universal came back and they're like, hey, you got to edit some of this, right? And one of the clips that they wanted to edit was the part that had our song in it, and because this part is, like, completely has nothing to do with anything. It's just like this sky shot of Japan and people playing soccer on top.
And by our song, just for the audience, we were talking about Far East movement at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but he refused and fought tooth and nail to keep our song on there because he wanted to support us. And that was our first big break. The funny part is that after that, we got the song on the soundtrack, and of course we, like, did videos about it and, like, promoted the crap out of it. But our song was actually not even a big song in the movie. The big song was by the Teriyaki Boys, which is, like, verbal, M-Flow, like, Japanese legends, right? Mm-hmm. But of course in America at the time, nobody knew that. So people would book us for shows, and we would do the concerts, come out, and they'd be like, hey, that was great, but why didn't you play your song? I'd be like, oh, you got booked us twice for that one.
That's like incredible. And I think now when you're almost like returning the favor.
Yeah,
right? When I think
absolutely.
about like what you're doing for other Korean and or Asian acts, and like bringing them to the forefront of culture, let alone pop culture, let alone, you know, Asian pop culture. Like, walk us through that dynamic and like what your mission has become.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's always been about bridging that, gap between the East and the West. So we've always tried to give back. We started to manage artists that kind of needed our help and that fit within the lane of what we were trying to do. And it turns out that our taste in music is kind of all over the place. So we'd end up helping house DJs and battle rappers and K-pop artists and all kinds of different things. And it's kind of formed into a great little umbrella now that we call Transparent Arts. But we're like 15 years in running. But the first 7-8 years was kind of tough because we were being artists as well, and it's very hard to be an artist and an entrepreneur at the same time. You just can't focus your energy. So like a couple years ago, we realized that we were not Jay-Z or Snoop Dogg. We could not rap until we were 50 years old. And it's time for us to take a step back and try focusing on other things. So we really put our energy into Transparent and the artists that we weren't able to give as much to, and that deserved all that. And really focus our energy. So now we're we represent 6 artists. We have a publishing division. We do distribution for electronic artists. We do concerts, all kinds of different things. But yeah, it's been awesome.
So it's not about transparency.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what they call us. They call us the transparents all the time. That's what artists call us. Yeah.
My mom and dad and one person. The sorry, look, because I
don't know where to go.
It was it's me. I'm the one that's going to get canceled. Next thing you know, it'll be like Massive Craft with Caleb. Goldhouse, record label, restaurant, creative education. You're also a lawyer. You're a musician. Like you hold a record for being the first Asian band to be number one. I don't even know where to go question wise to examine how you fan out in so many different arenas. What is the central theme and what is the why for you?
In the beginning, it was just survival, actually, because we wanted to be artists. However, it's really hard to do, no matter who you are, to be in the arts. And so in the beginning, we were just doing whatever we could to keep our dream going. And back then, you didn't even have all the computer gear and cheap ways to record. We actually had to book studios and all that kind of stuff. So it was all about just saving money, scratching here and there. So if we could sync a record here or write a song or jingle for somebody over there, or put a concert together because no one else would put us up, we would do that. So it was just whatever we could do to keep rolling. And funny enough, because my parents were musicians, I hated music. Absolutely hated it. I did not want to have anything to do with it. Yeah, but they were in opera and religious music and stuff like that. I remember back in the day, I loved hip hop the moment that I heard it, and I got an MC Hammer tape. This is and I would listen to it every night. I'd take my mom's Walkman and listen to it, and then my dad one day, he just walked in on me and he saw me listening to the music and he pulled it on. He's like, "What is this? This is devil music." And I'd go, "Oh." I was like, "Dad, he has a song. It's called Pray. I swear this is That shit did not
Satan
work.
is MC Hammer. That's who would have thunk? I have a funny MC Hammer story because I had the cassette tape as well, and I remember I used to cut our grass, and I was like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was mowing the lawn and I was going off. I was doing the hammer dance while I with the lawnmower. You go up and then you come back, and this girl that I liked, who did not know, you just have a silent crush. She was walking down the street and was like, just shook her head no at whatever it was I was doing. So MC Hammer ruined my
dance
day.
Right there. Did you have the big
full-on
pants?
typewriter. Well, not cutting the grass, but that would be quite a look. You were about to say something earlier, sorry.
No.
And I felt okay, good. But would you like to?
Not yet.
That's fine. Okay, good. I just had to check in. It's a health check.
Yeah. No, if it looks like I'm saying something, it's probably because
You were gasping?
Yeah, it might have been my
the mustache.
Tourette's or something. I don't know. Sometimes it looks like that way.
I'd like to put you in perspective. Kind of if you were going to brag to, I don't know, and your life depended on it, what would you say some of your biggest accomplishments recently have been?
Oh, shit. I mean, I became a dad. I think that's my number one.
It does say dad first in your Instagram profile.
100%.
Yes.
And that was a big part in changing my life. Like, I had always given everything I had to my career, to my friends, to to that weird thing on top, whether it was Transparent or Far East Movement, that, doesn't necessarily appreciate all the sacrifice and everything that you give. And at a certain point, you just kind of feel, empty. So I went to a journey. That's why I actually went to Murimgun. That was like the first thing that I did. Is I wanted to get my health right. I wanted to get my spirit right. I wanted to get my health right. I started going to church, and then there was a gym right across the street, in this garish orange building, and I was like, but I'd always see people over there, and I'd always wanted to get into martial arts, and I finally had the time for it. So that's when I crossed the street, and I literally went and tried that out. But that was the beginning of it, and and then I was blessed enough to find my wife, and I was just about to propose to her, and then she called me and she's like, "Hey, I'm pregnant," and I was like, "Oh shit." All right, well that takes.
Is it mine?
Yeah. 6. She's like 6 months in, like belly all big, walking down the aisle. So funny, my
That's
dad.
beautiful.
Right before I walked through, he's like, "You put me through shit the whole way through, huh?" I was like, "Yeah. I mean, you brought me up in Koreatown. What the fuck you expect?" But yeah, man, like, so, and just having a kid and the perspective that it gives, and like the changes in just love and it's just amazing, man.
Yeah.
Like, I know not everybody wants to have a kid, but I truly believe that it's an experience that you need to have.
Oh, 100%. I have two, and also similar experience in coming across Murimgung, which is a martial arts studio and facility we've all three of us have trained at and been a part of. Kidstown was right across the street.
That's where my kid goes right now.
So my son was there, and I was like, I've done martial arts most of my life, and I go in and out of phases, and I was starting to get the itch again. I was like, what is that place? And then there was like a flyer on my car one day, because they were, guerrilla style, like, come work out. And I'm thankful, because obviously this moment is because of Koreatown.
Yeah.
Like,
Straight
this
up.
is, in so many interesting ways. Accomplishments business-wise, like, how would you sum those up? Like,
A few, I would say. One thing that I'm really proud of these days is Gold House, which is a nonprofit for Asian Americans and really raising Asian Americans in entertainment. Back in the day, like, we'd have a lot of artists that would come to us and talk about, like, I have great ideas for these music videos or whatever. Like, we had our guy Dumbfounded. This guy had ideas for everything, literally. And sometimes we'd be able to get like some sponsorships or whatever, but man, you don't want to put like McDonald's sponsorship on one of Dumbfounded's videos and stuff. So we're like trying to think, like, who are the real unicorns? Who are people that, can, that would support, what the Asian Americans, what our people are doing. And just happened to be having a conversation that day with Justin Kahn from Twitch. He was the guy who did Justin TV back in the day, the first guy to put a camera on his head. And and I asked him when we were at the bar, and I was like, do you know anything about like what's going on with your people, with your community? He's like, a little bit. And I was like, well, how would you support it? He's like, yeah, for sure, if I knew about it. So I was like, okay, cool. How about we just like start throwing some dinners and some hangs, and I'll bring some artists and people, you bring some of your folks, and like we'll go hang out. Because it turns out that the greatest, strongest unicorns, the people, that can really move mountains, especially in the Asian American community, are the guys in tech. These are the guys who are, who have made a whole bunch of money, and they're young enough to care about their legacy and wanting to, see their people succeed, and and want to do something about it. So, so us with the, and then there was a lot of like-minded people actually that thought the same way, like Bing Chen, who's the CEO right now. Kevin Lin, who was also at Twitch, and like, he was a huge instrumental part in putting together Gold House, and just like folks from CAA, Janet Yang, who's now who's the president over at the Academy, and then we started talking about things, brainstorming on how we could help, and then like the first thing that we decided to do was create like this thing called the Gold Open, because we actually wanted to start off making movies, right? Because that's one of the big ways that you can change culture, but you send these tech guys like scripts, like what do they know, right? And even tech guys who have like hundreds of millions of dollars, like, they don't want to like invest like $5 million into like something they don't understand, right? So instead of like thinking about that, we decided like, well, like, how about, for movies that are already out there that just need some marketing support, how about we like buy out some movie theaters? We actually got that idea from Chance the Rapper, because he was doing that for Get Out in Chicago, like for all the kids over there, all the urban kids that wanted to go and see that movie and support. So we came up with that idea. The first movie we decided was our friend Justin Chan's movie Gook, which is about the riots, which is like perfect for us. So so we accounted for a good amount of ticket sales. It helped Justin get his deal with Macro, and it was the beginning of like something that really has elevated a lot. Like we were a big part of Crazy Rich Asians. Like now it's like I'm like barely even. I don't even know what the fuck is going on. It's so big now. It's like they're crushing it. But like the fact that like I could be a part of that situation and the relationships that I was able to, that we as a team were actually able to make through that is a huge part of who we are. That's how we created our restaurant inner crew. That's how we've built a lot of our new network and and driven a lot of our artists forward. So yeah, it's been a big thing for us.
It's interesting you talk about like at least the Gold House piece of that, where you're like, I don't know what's going on with it right now. Like, how much of your energy is spent building things versus running things?
Oh man, so what's the difference? Building things and
well,
running?
I think there's a point where you go like, all right, it is in good shape. I'm done here, right? Like, and then there's a point where you're like, I really just enjoy this on a day-to-day basis, and I want to stay involved, engaged, grow, like, et cetera, et cetera.
So I think in the beginning we were like building a lot of things. We were that because just see so many needs and all this. But these days I realized I was spreading myself thin, like, and like our team and our team is big. Like we have 5 people in Transparent that I grew up with since high school, and like my most trusted brothers in the world, and they're all very capable to do different things. So one of the biggest things that we did was to delineate responsibilities and everybody being able to handle certain things. So I just focus on a few things now. So like I'm constantly deleting things off of my Instagram bio. Like and when I do that, like it's because I'm narrowing down my focus into the things that I can do and that I want to do and that I want to and I really want to put my energy in so that those things can succeed, and then talk about the next thing.
I was gonna say, was something interesting I noticed as I was like doing a deep dive into some of the things that you've been working on is like oftentimes when you look at like the credits of like the team, the people that are involved, like sometimes it says James Rowe, but a lot of times it just says Far East Movement, and that's like the staples, like your group is a part of this, like you like the restaurant and all that other stuff. What is the thread for that decision as far as like, is it because everybody is involved? Is it a brand thing? Like what is the intent by doing it that way?
I mean, crazy enough though is like I really think that one of my biggest blessings in my life is the fact that I've been able to grow up with my friends, right? And like even like going to like college, like where other people have to make all their new friends, like I have my high school buddies because I grew up in LA and I went to UCLA, I ended up going to law school over at Loyola. Everything I've always had my core group with me the whole time. And the biggest part about that is that whenever I came through tough times, whenever like, especially like in law school, like when you're going through finals, like you can dilly-dally through finals in high school and college over like 2-3 days or a week or whatever. But in law school, like, you gotta dedicate a few months into like, making sure that you get through it. And even then you're like barely passing. But during those times it was like, and I couldn't like, be like a daily part of the process. Like my guys would pick me up, and be able to keep moving forward. Like when you're writing a record, like that whole thing is like, it's a different thing, right? Because you really have to put your ego aside, especially when you're writing with other people. And it's about the best idea. It's not about, like everybody getting their say. If you make a song where everybody's doing everything, this shit comes out mad disjointed every time. It's really about, like just collaborating in the purest sense of the word. So that's really like how we decided, like, what Far East Movement is all about, what Transparent is all about, and what my life has been all about. Like they always say, right, like if you're the smartest person in the room, like you don't fucked up. You're like, you gotta find some new friends. And luckily, like I haven't ever felt like that. I got some really talented people around me, and we continue to grow our team, and yeah, so that's what it is.
You talk about this egoless, spirit of creation. I get it if you're writing a song. If you're building a business, that is like,
Very
how does
different.
that translate? Is it like,
Very
what is that
different.
like?
Oh man, that was very different because like, especially between the three of us, like there was a certain dynamic in the way we wrote our records. Like some guys are good at making melodies, some guys are good at writing lyrics, like messaging, like picking beats, all that kind of stuff. It's like everyone had their roles, and everyone had their dream roles of what they were going to be in Transparent. But turns out a lot of the people had the same ideas of who they were going to be in
I'm
Transparent.
also the CEO.
Yeah, exactly. a lot of
I'm gonna do marketing. No, I'm gonna do marketing.
habitual line stepping up in the mud. Yeah,
Well,
dude.
and I think that's like one of the hardest things about, because I've worked with friends before, and it's like, especially if you have any cross similar skill sets, like it can cause a lot of friction there. And I'm very curious how you've managed to do it so well, so long.
You know what's crazy though, man? Like we really did hit a point though where it was about to all fall apart, man. Like everybody was just having issues with each other, and because we're such like friends for such a long time, we had like passive aggressive issues buried from 20 years past. It was really bad. And then we found therapy. I swear to God.
No, I'm impressed. Like,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, we like actually my wife brought me into it, for marriage counseling at first, and that shit blew my mind too, because like I thought that I was a good person, and I did, and I was an honest man, and turns out I'm kind of an asshole. And turns out that there's a lot of things that I do that affect other people that I was just not aware of, and I realized
And
that
why you do those things.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
The
The
why
why.
you showed up that way is
Yeah.
even a whole other layer of it.
yeah, that part makes me hella scared about being a dad. I'm like, am I scarring her for life? Like, I don't want to.
I know you have more of the story to tell, but I feel like, your kids are younger than mine. Your child, you just one?
She's 3.
Yeah, it's younger than mine. But I think when you have that awareness, like you've gone to therapy, you understand how you've shown up and how you thought you showed up, and then like also why, that awareness sticks with you at every step along the way. Like I'm always checking and balancing my reaction.
Yeah.
Like, oh, is this the time or is now the time? This kid's personality is different than that kid's personality. This one might need to get yelled at. This one I got to wait for a sweet spot to have the
Right.
communication. Like, but most parents have such knee-jerk reactions. Get out of there, and then you're like,
My dad,
now
wah!
yeah, exactly, yeah. See, same thing. I like. So anyway, I say that I wanted to give you that because it's like, yes, it's scary, but it's also you have a great foundation already.
Yeah. So like, but learning that as like through marriage counseling, I realized how much of that I could actually help the relationship with the rest of the guys. So I brought it up, and then the guys all agreed to give it a big a shot, and it was not an overnight success. It took like a lot of time and breakout sessions and months before we even got to a certain point, because there's 5 of us. There's so many disconnects in so many different places. But man, after we hit that break and things started to click, like our company has like literally changed. Like it's been an absolute 180, and our profits, the type of opportunities, like all that has just skyrocketed since then. So it's,
They say
it's
like
amazing.
somebody once said this to me, which was like any problem inside any company is a people problem, right?
It is.
And it's not like some mechanic or software or strategy. It is exactly what you just said. Like, can we be better humans as we operate this organization? And it still might fail, but at the end of the day, you have better relationships and those sorts of things. Was it? I feel like there's a difference between how men and women operate in the emotional intelligence space, especially if there's close proximity and there's business and there's history. What was the male experience like? Just kind of
most of us are dudes, and that's been a problem. So we've actually been trying really, really hard to bring in more females into our company, which has helped a lot. But like, there's also a thing between artist and businessman that's kind of the same thing, because a lot of artists have a lot of like empathy and feeling and things that are very hard to balance with business decisions and the way that their perspective is on things, and being able to find that healthy balance where there's a respect on both sides that was one of the bigger things, right? Because it's like whenever like the business guy would come in and be like, oh, like we probably shouldn't do that, or we should do this. The artist side, like, what do you know? go write the song then, But it's not like that, Like it's a symbiotic relationship, and being able, like on our side, actually being able to enable the guys in our group that had business acumen has really helped grow our business like a lot. Like we thought we knew it all, as the artist, like, we can run all this. But in actuality, like, having a guy that's thinking about every dollar and how, and how it goes in, how it goes out, remembering all those types of things, like, and building an infrastructure, all that, like, that was actually one of the biggest things that changed the trajectory of our company.
I love it. I feel like there's like these moments of exponential growth in the things that you've been involved in. How much of that is strategic? How much of it is like, look, we just need to set a really good foundation and do what we know how to do best, and like allow for a little bit of magic to happen or be opportunistic, versus like, oh, we are going to build the largest blah, blah, blah. Like how does goal setting go, and achieving and adjusting along the way?
Definitely the latter. Like, I think that there's certain goals that that you want to achieve, and then, just kind of move towards that area. And then like they always say, right? Like, you create your own luck. And it's really about like doing things, and then people will feel that energy, and things will happen from there. But it is very important to have specific goals, and after a few months you kind of look at it and like, is it time to pivot? Does this make sense? And being able to move, but still having a North Star that everyone can look at. That was a big problem actually for us as artists, because as a musician, especially for us, because we actually hit like #1, like that became like, trying to hit that goal became like an obsession, a very, very unhealthy obsession. And, it's very hard. I'll tell you, it's very hard to hit that again, and
it's the Michael Jackson problem.
Yes. It's, what is that?
Well,
he had a lot of #1, so I don't think he had a problem.
But like, I think it was the Thriller album, and then it was the Bad album, right? The Thriller album did like blah, 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 platinum, and then the next album did extremely fucking well, but it wasn't as well as the first one.
Right.
And apparently Mike went off into like depression and anger and like all these things. Drew Carey talked about that when the Drew Carey show was out. William Shatner interviewed him. You can find this online, but it was like, he was saying the Drew Carey show was the #1 show on television by a long shot. And what did he do every day? He obsessed over who was creeping up on their heels. And he was just like, to the point where it was like health was getting bad, and he was an asshole on set, like all these things, because he couldn't enjoy his success. Like, there was something about us. I think we all have that to some degree, where it's just like, yeah, that was good, but it's not what I want.
Right.
Something else. Right, and sometimes the universe will give you something else that you don't like,
and you have to accept that, But the problem with us was that it's moving goalposts, and that shit just wears you out after a while, man.
Yeah. And
so now it is very important is to like make sure that you're aligned with whoever you're working with, and being like, this is, you got to have your short-term goals and like that goals, and like this is we got to hit this, and then we could talk about the next thing, but like, we gotta get this first.
Yeah. That's it. Your non-negotiables, right? Like,
yeah,
what is,
absolutely.
Which is always hard, because it's like, especially when other opportunities present themselves, or a new idea pops up, or a completely new opportunity, and like that could be actually get us there faster. It's like, how do you know when to stick to your guns on that? Like, we got to do this first, versus, oh, here's a perceived shortcut.
You know what though? There's certain times where you have to be able to like place your bet down. And it's just, fuck it, this is it, That's how we feel right now. We have this band right now called The Rose.
I was reading about them.
Yeah, so we're all in on these guys. The interesting part about them is that like they've been accepted by the K-pop community. They're like, real good-looking dudes, which has really helps with the marketing side of things. Like, yeah.
Was that the one where they were was there a video where they were dancing in the rain in the,
exactly.
in the amusement park, which was dope. It was just, I was like, I want to go there. Like, it was, it's very magnetic.
It's an abandoned amusement park in Korea, like kind of on some spooky shit.
I saw you share that. I know what you're talking about.
So these guys, they look K-pop. The K-pop fans love them, but they write all their own music. They play all their own instruments. They're like 2.0. You know what I'm saying? Like, just something that we feel really strongly about. And then the crazy part is, as people, these guys are such humble, like, focused dudes. It's weird in a way though, like, not to pat myself on the back, but like I see a lot of our reflection in them as well, like but way more talented, way better looking, but like but So when we see that and like and the energy that these guys have and the way that the fans give it back to them, like I wasn't even there in the beginning. Like two of my other partners, they actually saw them at a concert and said that when they started singing, like they see people fainting, like this, like it's church or something. And they're like, and they looked at the merch lines and things are like, you know, blowing out, and they're like, who are these guys, you know? And that like kind of fandom is very hard to come by.
Yeah.
You know, like we've worked with enough artists now where like, you know, when you got something and when you don't. And so like I've worked on a lot of things, but I do know that was that when we saw that and we saw them and we saw the opportunity to work with them, it was like, all right, I'm going to get rid of most of this stuff except for the things I absolutely have to do, and I'm just going to focus on this.
Well, what you're talking about also is feeling, you know, and I think, especially as men, I think we think a lot. We try to be very strategic. We're like, ooh, and you're looking at the numbers and the metrics, but you just talked about having a feeling evoked. You know, like, that's it. Like everything else kind of doesn't matter because that's what's going to drive you through to rise to the occasion when it's not so easy.
Yeah. Feelings are crazy, bro. It's such a I'm a very logical person.
Me too. Yeah.
It's always been hard to kind of like get that out, but man, when the feeling is there, you got to identify it and you got to run with it.
Yeah, and I think it's also just backing up a little bit. It also goes back into your work in therapy, right? You learn how to like process emotion and feel things, and we talk about intuition and like the things that are more traditionally assigned as feminine, you know, traits of living.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, that's great. How many black belts do you have?
Just the one.
Okay, great.
Was that it?
But you came into Modern Gung, you already had martial arts background, didn't you?
Yeah, well, so I'd been doing Taekwondo for, probably about 8 years I did at Taekwondo, but I never like got my black belt because I was off and on, and I never really like stuck with it through because it is like there's a lot of like you have to stay in it for a certain consistency and like do certain things, and like it was always like one thing I hadn't learned, like a certain form or like literally just a payment we hadn't made, like it was things like that.
There's
like,
that you don't even know about that.
Oh,
yeah, just
what?
Just like the logistics stuff that sometimes never happened, or like when I was 15, I just kind of like gave up on martial arts for a bit, and like right before I could have tested for a black belt, just because I was over it for a while.
This fool, his kicks though are.
Oh,
you got some pretty ass kicks, bro.
I appreciate
do one.
that.
You have to do one after we get.
I don't know if I can right now. I have been living a sedentary lifestyle for the last like 12 months building my business, and it's unfortunately
It's like riding a bike.
Yeah,
I'm
sure
hamstring,
you
right?
Do you know how many times I've torn my muscles though on my legs just because like my body can still do them, but like my body's not built to do them anymore. Like I could still do a side kick really high, and then I'm in pain afterwards, and I can feel it for like.
But did it
So
look
basically,
Oh, it'll look good.
if anybody wants to rob Caleb, he's got one move he can do, and then get the wallet.
And if you escape that move, you're good to go. You're good
If
to
you can
go.
dodge that sidekick, his wallet is yours. No, the reason I bring that up because I think at the time you and I met, you were about to test for your black belt.
Right.
And I think about you just doing things to the fullest, to the end, the law degree, you know, the record label, the number ones, you know, what, and I feel like there's an element of discipline that goes into it, but there's probably also like, you're driven to finish things? Like, what? Like, tell me what I'm saying.
That's my you know what? Actually, my dad literally beat that into me, you know, when I was a kid. And he's always said it's not about how you start. It's not about, you know, how it's going. It's about how you finished. It's always about how you finish. And so, yeah, whenever I make commitments to things, like, I try to make sure that I see it through. Which ends up being a reason why I don't like to, like, ever commit myself to things, because when I do, I know it's going to be it's gonna mean a lot for me. So I'm always like, But that's the great thing about like some of my guys, right? Because some of my guys are more visionaries. They're guys who like to be out there, be in the world, and just kind of see things. And then when they're able to bring things like with conviction, like the Rose, and be like, yo, these guys, you know, I trust them, and I'm able to be like, all right, cool, like I will commit to this.
What is the James Rose superpower?
What is my superpower?
Because you're involved. It's in the mustache.
It's in the mustache.
It's like the Samson of facial hair.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't get rid of it. He loses power.
But you know, like when you show up in a room, especially in this team environment in sort of semi-concentric circles, like what's the thing that James can do that nobody else can?
I would say that I'm like more like Batman. I don't really have any superpowers, but you know, I got some tricks. You know, and I think that my number one trick is just self-discipline. Like I remember we had an old manager back and then we ended up parting ways. But like, you know, one of the things that he told me that stuck with me, it was like he's we were having like a conversation, we were arguing this there, and he goes, "You know what you need to do, James?" I was like, "What?" He goes, "You need to think before you talk sometimes. Sometimes you be saying shit and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about." And I was like, "What?" that really messed with me, right? But I thought about it and I was like, you know, I think you're right. You know, like I'm not a good off the cuff person. I was never a great freestyler. A lot of stuff about me, like I have to be able to think about it, process it, plan it, and that's when it starts making sense and I can do things with it. So like my biggest thing is like whenever things happen, or like, you know, like because there's a lot of like crazy situations that happen in business and music and all that kind of stuff that need like that you feel like need snap decisions, and I just stop. And I try as hard as I can to make as much time as I can so that I can process it and make the right decision from there. So I would say that that's maybe slow motion. Shit.
Well, yeah. Well, the ability to pause. Like I think it's one of those understated skills because most of us have a knee-jerk reaction in a moment, whether it's a parenting decision or something you got to do at work, or somebody's asking you how much does it cost, and you're on the phone. And you're like, let me, because you want the opportunity. You're like, hold on, let me call you back tomorrow, right? Like,
how much you think it costs?
But those are like real decisions, and so I think a lot of us you jump into the old rate, right, or the old way of doing things, like as opposed to like just taking that second to like make some consideration. It doesn't even align with the future direction that you're headed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really good at this, bro.
Am I?
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
You're good at it. You're making it easy.
Not at all.
Also think there's a lot of levity to you. Like every time I've been around you, it's like it's a fun time. You also know your shit, which I did not know more of until today. But where does levity and humor and just kind of like lightening the load come into play for you?
You know, that had to come with being an artist, man. Because like being an artist, like you know, like we took the music so seriously. You know, like we had to get there. You know, so everything was about just, you know, being real serious. And I remember like when we brought Verman, was our DJ, into the group. And Verman's he's hilarious. He's like the dad joke guy. And we went to Korea to do some promo, and it was terrible. Like fucking, it was way too early. But anyways, and it was like real quiet. We had a really shitty show. It was like at a club. Some people started throwing fucking like vegetables at us and shit, and we were all just really
kind of
quiet.
kimchi?
Like not kimchi. At the club?
No. Being accidentally racist.
Well, that's technically that's a cabbage, actually. So that's not the
Is
the
the
vegetable.
cabbage not a vegetable?
Well, no, kimchi is not a vegetable. Kimchi is fermented vegetable.
True.
It is a vegetable. Well, okay. Anyways, but it was real quiet, and then he started
too much time on that one.
Yeah, he started cracking jokes and like just like making jokes, and he was just saying, he was like, you know, you guys are so serious. You know, why so serious? And you know, that was the beginning of it, but like a little bit more down the line, that became a big part of it, because like, man, when you're too self-conscious and all that, it's just you become paralyzed.
Yeah.
You know, you're thinking so much like, oh, is this the right melody for this record? Is this the right beat? Dude, should this be the next record that comes out? Like, what are people gonna think? Like, fuck all that.
Yeah.
You just gotta be, you just gotta trust you gotta trust it, and you gotta have fun. If it ain't fun no more, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, the phrase "ship with shame" comes to mind because they talk about that a lot in like the tech circles. If you have a product, the thing that you need to launch, you can go over the details to death, right? And here you are another 6, 9, 12, 18 months out, and you still haven't launched because you want to get this this color right, or this phrase right, or that one bug that like let people experience. And you have to think of life, you know, not just the business, but life in terms of iteration. Yeah. Like everything comes like with trial, learning, try again. And it literally is 3 steps forward, 1 step
back.
That's
that MVP shit, right? The minimum viable product.
That was it. That was it.
Look at you, did good. Yeah.
I said minimum, like, or is it melanin?
Melanin Viral Productions. What is one thing you are working on for yourself? Like, what's an area of improvement that you're exploring?
An element of improvement that I'm exploring. I mean, I love martial arts, man. It's just something. I mean, it's a hobby, and I suck at it, but I just love it, man.
You're actually really good. What are you talking about?
It's been a few years
Yeah,
now. I'm still over at Murim, like and like, you know, but I do all the MMA stuff now. I love kickboxing. I love jiu-jitsu, and you know, that's something I want to get my daughter into. I think it's brought a lot of like health benefits to me. It's also like just taught me about, you know, just humility and just life, man. In the end, dude, like size matters. Like you fight a guy who's bigger than you, they're gonna kick, you know, a lot of times they're gonna kick your ass. It just is what it is, no matter how talented you are.
Oh, absolutely,
you know?
yeah. It's just, but also now you know the difference, right?
Yeah.
Like I think, like if you're younger and hot-headed and you're like, fuck the world, of course you think you can take that dude.
Yeah.
But martial arts teaches you like, either I can do this one or two things, or I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just so funny to me, man. Like you know, like I think about like all these younger kids, like, oh man, like, man, but when I get mad, when I snap, oh, it's over. Like,
Right.
I don't know.
Well, shout out
over for someone.
Michelle Watterson, who was a guest on the show, UFC fighter, and you know she's been in the game for a minute, and she was talking about like these young cats that are coming in, and like their foundational martial art is mixed martial arts. Like that's dangerous, you know, for somebody who, for her, it's the karate hottie. Like karate was her thing. And so, yeah, you put me like in a Tang Soo Do ring, I'm great. If I'm like, you take me down to the ground, I have zero.
Yeah.
idea. But one thing she talked about, for you know, kind of paralleling it to like this conversation, is she talked about how any position is never good or bad. It's just a position.
It is, absolutely.
So
like,
if
you don't
get-
like being like it shouldn't feel good if you're on your back, but actually, there's hella things you could do on your back.
Right.
Absolutely. Another thing actually that I'm working on actually that I do want to talk about is learning this genre of K-pop. It's been a whole experience for me, man. Like being like Asian American, like you think, oh yeah, of course he knows everything about K-pop, but nah, man, like, you know, especially like the K-pop that I knew when I was like, you know, in the 90s or whatever, like, and how it's formed and become what it is today. It's like, I did not pay attention to any of that. I like rap. I like, you know, alternative rock music. Like, I did not look into that. So, and like our group too was like very like pop electronic, you know, with like touches of hip hop. It did not go into that area at all. And K-pop is such an amazing like culture and community, right? And it's so fan led and driven and these things that I just wasn't aware of. So like our first album that we put out with the Rose, like I was humbled, man, because there's a lot of things that I thought was the way that you do things in music that did not necessarily fit. Once again, like they straddle the line between like alt pop and indie rock and K-pop, but like their fans, they have certain fans that are very K-pop driven, and that was not for them, you know, that alienated them, and that's something that I felt terrible about. And that's why with this album, with, you know, now that we're putting out this new record, like I brought in like a whole, well, not me, but like our team has brought in like a whole bunch of like experts and folks that are like teaching us about all this, and it's been amazing. It's like a whole new experience on like how to approach like launching an album, launching an artist, like putting together a tour, like fan apps and clubs and all that kind of stuff, like the way that your merch is put out, like all that. It's just been very different. So that's actually been very exciting for me.
That's beautiful. Like, is there, if you could identify a central theme there? I mean, you talk about it being fan led, which I feel like is probably it. You know, how do these fans differ from a Travis Scott? Right, like,
well, I mean, Travis Scott fans are actually kind of K-pop-ish, bro, because like they just care about everything he does. Like he's one of the few artists that can come out with like 5 or 6 album covers, and they'll buy everything because they want to be a part of that. They want to get every one of his reverse thing shoes or whatever. Like, you know, so he actually has some of that. You know, his new record is called K-pop, right? The one with the
is
Weeknd.
it?
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. But like the biggest thing is definitely about like the fans and their loyalty and their love, and it's not, some people they call it fanaticism, some people they might call it rabid, but it's not that, man. It's just undying support that you have to respect, and you have to give them, you know, as much energy and love that as they're giving you, you know, like I wish I could take it back, man. There's certain shirts that that we printed on some Gildans, because that's how you do it when you're in hip hop, man. You're just trying to make a buck, But man, these kids, like, they deserve really nice stuff, because you know what? Like, they'll give that much back to you.
I highly recommend you guys, if you can, form a relationship with Network.
Oh yeah, I love those guys.
Yeah. Like, this as a genre of blending, drop culture and K-pop, like sensationalism, like all the things, I think would be great.
One of my favorite shirts is the Network shirt. It's like a it's like a Patagonia shirt.
Yeah.
Except it says pandemic, and instead of mountains, it's like the fucking the virus going up. Like, it's hilarious, bro.
That's awesome.
James, thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate you. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah.
Me. One.
Us. You're.
Yeah, I
you're
can do that now,
people.
right? Yeah. It's 2000. Yeah, 23.
I have some. I
Had to think about it for a second.
I did, man. After a while, man, it all blends in, bro. I'm like, what is this? I don't know, man.
Where am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So thank you. I appreciate it,
man. Thank you, guys.